Deep dives and blue skies. Welcome back to Talking Blue with Nick, the best Dodgers analytical podcast that you can find.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Talking Blue, the best Dodgers analytical podcast that you can find. I am your host, Nick. Today you're listening to episode 66. It is a very exciting day because we're going to talk about Game 4 of the National League Division Series, which wraps up, and the Dodgers will advance to the National League Championship Series. They beat the Phillies in 4 games. They walk it off Game 4 at home, an unbelievable game. We're going to recap all of that. So quickly before we get into it, you can get this podcast on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, subscribe to the YouTube channel, turn on the notifications so you don't miss when any of the new videos drop. You can follow us on all social media at Talking Blue Pod. You can follow myself at Talking Blue on X, post a ton of breakdown videos and just overall all Twitter stuff, all X stuff about the Dodgers. So if you're a Dodger fan, I'm the perfect person for you to follow on X and on Reddit as well as at competitive-week8715. So, quickly, before we get into the game, I'm going to just set up a few things. I obviously did not recap Game 3 of the National League Division Series, not because I just didn't want to recap a loss or anything like that. I just was kind of busy with my schedule, and it kind of didn't work out for me. The game ended late. It was a quick turnaround the next day, so I figured, you know what, I'll come on here and recap Game 4 no matter what. So, obviously, they lost Game 3. The final score was 8-2. They ended up getting destroyed, but super frustrating game. The Dodgers just didn't hit, which was kind of similar in Game 4, but they didn't hit. Yamamoto just didn't really have it in that game. Not too much to say. I'll talk a little bit more about that game. But at the end of the day, the Dodgers just didn't win, and there was a lot of people upset about a lot of different things, but it was the first and only loss of the Dodgers postseason this year. So, obviously, Dodger fans have super high expectations, as I do myself. But at the end of the day, you're never going to go undefeated in the postseason. That is never going to happen. And it's actually unlikely that you're going to sweep multiple series or anything like that. So, The Dodgers were never really going to sweep the Phillies. I don't think anyone would have ever thought that going into the series. Again, I'll get into that a little bit more. We're going to really just talk about the Game 4 that happened. The Dodgers obviously won. So I'm going to run through that game and just talk about some of the things that happened. For those of you who may have not listened or watched, which of course I doubt happened with any of you guys, but I'm going to run through the game, then I'll just kind of give my thoughts throughout the game, some stats and some, stuff about the players afterwards, and then I will give, kind of like overwhelming thoughts on the series, and then obviously going forward. So, Game 4 of the National League Division Series. Tyler Glasnow gets the start against Christopher Sanchez. Of course, Christopher Sanchez started in Game 1 against Ohtani, so he's pitching on a little bit shorter rest. Glasnow is making his first start of the postseason. Not his first appearance because he did pitch in Game 2 out of the bullpen, of course, and he actually did pretty good. But the first time we get to see Tyler Glasnow start a postseason game for the Dodgers, so I was super excited for that because I've been waiting for that since the Dodgers traded for him back in December of 2023. So the first time we get to see him start a game, he has a chance to send his hometown team to the NLCS. So, as you guys probably know, there was not a lot of scoring in this game. We skip ahead all the way to the top of the 7th inning. At this point in the game, Tyler Glasnow has gotten through 6 innings pitched, 0 earned runs. Christopher Sanchez has also gotten through 6 innings pitched, no earned runs. Glasnow comes out of the game. He only had about 80-something pitches. I thought at the time he was coming out just because of the matchups and because he pitched really good. But it actually did come out afterwards that he had a little bit of cramping, so Dave Roberts just went to Emmett Sheehan. So in that inning, in the 7th inning, Emmett Sheehan replaces Glasnow. He gives up a leadoff single to JT Realmuto on a little 2-strike hanging slider. Kepler then grounds into what almost was a double play. They get the lead out at second base, but then with Sheehan covering the bag at first, he actually just straight up missed the ball. He wasn't even on the bag anyways, so it wouldn't have been a double play because he wasn't on the first base bag with his foot. But he missed the throw completely, so that means the ball goes into the dugout and the runner goes to second base. Then Nick Castellanos comes up. He doubles down the left field line. Kepler scores. Castellanos to second. 1-0 Phillies. Credit to Sheehan for not letting this inning get out of control because he gets Bryson Stott to fly out, and then he strikes out Trey Turner. So after all that, after a long 7 innings, the Phillies go on the board. The Dodgers would get on the board, though, in the bottom of the 7th. An Alex Call walk. This is when Christopher Sanchez was still in the game. And then on a 3-2 count, Kike Hernandez singles into left field to make it first and second. So then the Phillies go to Johan Duran. Again, I'm going to talk about some of this stuff and how the Phillies were able to do this because Duran didn't pitch the night before. But Duran comes in. Obviously, their season's on the line, so they're going to go to their closer in the 7th inning. Kind of the first time they've done anything like that. Justin Dean replaces Alex Call, who was hit by a pitch earlier in the game, so probably just wanted to get someone in there that is fresh. But then Andy Pages, he grounds out to first base, so second and third now, and then the Phillies decide to intentionally walk Johan Duran, Shohei Ohtani. So the bases are loaded with 2 outs. Then Mookie Betts comes up, an incredible at-bat, a 3-2 count. He works a 3-2 count, and then he takes ball 4. It was a fastball just upstairs. Like I said, incredible at-bat because Duran is maybe the best stuff in the game. I mean, he literally throws over 100 miles an hour, and he throws a splinker splitter that is like 99 with curveball and a sweeper. And so obviously, Mookie, with the 3-2 count, you don't want to get caught looking, but you don't want to chase ball 4. Incredibly tough situation. And Duran also doesn't really walk many hitters, so you figure you're going to get a strike. He gets a fastball up that just misses. Mookie takes it. Tie game, RBI walk. Teoscar Hernandez then comes after that and has a pretty horrible at-bat. So Dodgers get out of it, tied 1-1. So the 8th inning comes around, and Dave Roberts goes to Roki Sasaki. I was actually a little bit surprised by this because at this point in the game, it has only been Glasnow and Sheehan that has pitched. They did have a couple of lefties in the pen, like Bonda and Vesia, but Dave Roberts has wasted no time. He's going right to his best reliever. Roki comes in. He gets Schwarber to fly out, Harper to pop up, and Alec Boehm to ground out. And he only did that on 7 pitches, which was massive because that means he was definitely coming back out for the 9th. So ideally, the Dodgers would have liked to take the lead in the 8th, have Roki come out for the 9th and close it out. That didn't happen. They go down scoreless in the 8th. Roki goes back out for the 9th, ground out by Brandon Marsh. Realmuto strikes out, and then another pop-up. Max Kepler pops up to Kike Hernandez. So Roki is through 2 scoreless innings. Bottom of the 9th, Dodgers have a chance to walk it off. Muncy comes up to hit. He pinched hit earlier in the game. Matt Strahm actually comes in to replace Johan Duran, so that's key because Duran is absolutely filthy. Muncy flies out, Kike strikes out, and then Pages also flies out. So game 4 of the NLDS is going to extra innings. Roki actually goes back out for his 3rd inning, which was a little surprising, but I thought was completely necessary. Goes back out for the 10th inning, gets Castellanos to grind out. He strikes out Bryson Stott, and then he actually gets Trey Turner to line out. So he almost goes through the whole lineup one time. He gets 9 outs, which is amazing. 3 innings, no earned runs, no hits, no walks, 2 strikeouts. Absolutely filthy stuff. I'll talk about him a little bit later. Now in the bottom of the 10th, the Phillies are in desperation mode. They bring in Jesus Luzardo, who started game 2. So they're just emptying the pen. As you see, Gracie, for those of you on YouTube, laying on my bed. She enjoyed this game as well. Shohei Ohtani is leading off the inning against Luzardo. He strikes out. Mookie Betts flies out, and then Teoscar strikes out. So at this point, as a fan, just this is pretty miserable and pretty this just such a nerve-wracking game. Dodgers just couldn't get anything going offensively, but we'll keep going. So now Roki Sasaki's day at the office is done. They bring in Alex Vesia to now face Schwarber and Harper. He gets Schwarber to ground out, but then on a 3-2 count, Bryce Harper, a nice at-bat. He walks. Then Alec Boehm lines out to center field. He hit a couple of really hard hit balls throughout the series. Andy Pages made a nice play. 2 outs. Then a pass ball puts Bryce Harper in scoring position. So then Harrison Bader actually pinch hits. We know he's been injured since game 1. He pinch hits for Brandon Marsh, who doesn't really hit lefties. Bader comes up, a nice long at-bat between him and Vesia, but he strikes out. He chases a slider down and away. Dodgers get out of it. I got to be honest, in that moment, I was feeling very nervous that Bader was going to bloop in a single, and that was going to be it for the Dodgers because their offense looked really bad. 11th inning, this is where the game finally ends. They have Weston Wilson go out to play left field for Harrison Bader. Kepler has to go play center field. So the Phillies actually have a pretty bad defensive outfield right now because of the injuries and all the pinch hits options. Luzardo stays in the game. He actually strikes out Freddie Freeman to start the 9th. But Tommy Edman singles into left field, which is massive. The winning run is on first base. They actually bring in Hae-Sung Kim to pinch run for Edman because we know Edman's been dealing with the ankle. Will Smith then actually lines out to center field. He absolutely hit a missile to center field. So it looked like, again, we were headed to the 12th inning. But Max Muncy comes up against Jesus Luzardo. I'll talk about this a little. But, of course, this is really key that Muncy came into the game earlier to pinch hit for Alex Call to get the righty-lefty advantage. But now, facing Luzardo, he's at a massive disadvantage because he doesn't hit lefties well. Lefties don't hit Luzardo well. Luzardo's sweeper is filthy. Gets a first pitch sweeper, hits it off the end of the bat, and actually singles into center field. So obviously that's massive. I really was not expecting Muncy to get a hit. So of course Hae-Sung Kim goes first to third. The winning run is at third base, 90 feet away. Then the Phillies make the move to go to Orion Kirkring to get the righty-righty matchup against Kike Hernandez. He works a nice long at-bat, but he eventually walks. So the bases are loaded with 2 outs, and it all comes down to Andy Pages, who has been miserable in the playoffs so far. Has only had 1 hit. That was back in Game 1 of the NLDS. He swings and misses at the first pitch, and then as you guys have all probably seen, he hits a weak ground ball back to Kirkring, bounces off of Kirkring's glove, bounces a few feet in front of him. He goes to pick it up. Instead of throwing to first base, he tries to get the runner out at home, completely airmails JT Realmuto for a throwing error. Hae-Sung Kim scores, and the Dodgers win 2-1, a walk-off error. It is actually the first walk-off error to end a series in the postseason in baseball history. The Dodgers win 2-1, walk-off fashion. They beat the Phillies in 4 games to advance to the National League Championship Series for the 2nd straight year. Unbelievable stuff. Unbelievable stuff. That took a whole 13 minutes to get through that. But that is how the game went. If you didn't watch, and I'm sure you all did, it is absolutely massive. It was unbelievable, unbelievably nerve-wracking, scary stuff that the Dodgers almost didn't win that game. And then obviously the ending, I'll save that for last. But first, let's talk about Glasnow. Glasnow was amazing. You guys know all year I've been begging to get Glasnow to start a postseason game, and we finally got it. I was excited before the game. I saw there was a few people who were nervous about Glasnow because he actually hasn't had great postseason numbers in his career. And the only thing I was nervous about with Glasnow was his command. He is a pitcher that is, for the most part, he's usually very good. Obviously, he always has pretty good numbers. But this year, the walks have been really bad for Glasnow, and he is always a pitcher, even in the past, before the walks like this year. He always the game can get away from him quickly. So that's what you're looking for with Glasnow early on in the game. But his final line, 6 innings pitched, 2 hits, no earned runs, 3 walks, 8 strikeouts. He had 16 whiffs in the game. He was pretty filthy. He was averaging 96.7 miles an hour on the fastball, so just a tick under 97. The sinker was actually averaging 97.1. He maxed out at 99 a couple times in this game. He was filthy. Did have the 3 walks, but for the most part, his command actually was pretty good, especially early in the game. He had a lot of first pitch strikes. Obviously, was getting swings and misses. In this game, he had 3 whiffs on his slider, but 7 whiffs were on the 4-seamer, so that was really the best pitch for him. It really made me feel good to see Glasnow pitch good. Like I said, I'm a big fan of his. I've really liked him. I wanted to see him in the postseason so bad a year ago, and it really sucked that we didn't get to see him. Obviously, the Dodgers won the World Series, so it didn't end up come back to bite them. But still, I really wanted to see it, and we got to finally see it in a big game at home. He pitched really good. It's funny because when Glasnow came out at 83 pitches in the 6th inning, I actually wasn't up in arms. I thought going into this game, this was going to be the first game where Dave Roberts was really aggressive with the pen all postseason. We've seen all postseason so far. Whenever it gets to that inning where you could possibly see a pitching change, in the past, Dave Roberts would have taken guys out. Normally with guys like Yamamoto, Snell, he's usually trying to get them 5 or 6. Probably will never see the 7th unless they look dominant, and then they're getting taken out. Every start so far, most pitchers have gone an inning longer than he probably would have thought. He's been really aggressive with the rotation, leaving the guys in there because we obviously know what the pen has been as of late. This was a game that I thought would be the first time Dave Roberts was going to be aggressive with the pen. And so when he got through that 6th inning, I pretty much thought he was done. But he only had 83 pitches, so he could have sent him back out there. And I thought that he took him out because he felt like Glasnow gave you exactly what you wanted. Didn't blow up or anything like that. Pitched really good. And at that point, getting later in the game, it seemed like a good time to go to the pen. But then it actually came out that he had cramps. So I guess that's also why. So I wonder if he was fine. He probably would have sent him back out there. I thought it was the right move to go to Sheehan. Now, at the time, the Dodgers were not winning. It was still a 0-0 game. So I think that if the Dodgers were winning, it definitely would have been a move. You go to Sheehan, and then maybe you go to Vesia, or you go to Roki for 6 outs, 8th and 9th, and then you try to win it like that. Maybe if the cramps don't come up and because it's a 0-0 game, he probably would have sent Glasnow back out there because in his mind he's thinking, I need Glasnow out there as long as I can because who knows how long this game is going to go. So anyways, Glasnow showed up. There was a ton of people nervous about him, like I said before the game, so I'm glad that he really proved a lot of those people wrong. I've always thought he's a very good pitcher. I know that he is frustrating as a fan because he gets injured a lot, and you just want to see him out there. But I really have never thought that there's any reason to not trust him or think that he's a good pitcher because he's always been really, really dominant. So great stuff from him. Obviously, after that, we know that Sheehan came in and gave up the earned run. I didn't think Sheehan looked that bad. I really think that the pitch calling in this inning was really bad, and then Sheehan just left a couple pitches up. After that Game 3 loss, again, I'm going to talk about some of this stuff after. It just kind of will tie in with some of my thoughts about the postseason overall and just thoughts that you have as a fan going through the postseason. And, I just feel like I have thoughts that I want to say about fans getting too high or getting too low in the postseason in terms of being negative and positive. But anyways, there was some talk because the Dodgers didn't play good in Game 3. Yamamoto didn't pitch good. And there were some people talking about Ben Rortvedt should be catching over Will Smith because of the pitch calling and all that stuff. And, I don't know if Will Smith I don't think he's the best pitch caller in the game. He's definitely not one of the best pitch framers in the league. But at the end of the day, most pitchers call their own game nowadays, and most pitchers and catchers, the battery, have an exact game plan that they're going to stick to. So I don't think that Yamamoto didn't pitch good because Will Smith was catching. And also, Will Smith is not just one of the best hitting catchers in the game. He's one of the best hitters in the game. And I'm sorry to Ben Rortvedt. He understands this as well, by the way. You're not going to have him start over Will Smith, who is an amazing hitting catcher and actually throws pretty well. So I think that that's pretty crazy if people think Rortvedt should start over Will Smith. I don't care about any of that. You need his bat in the lineup, especially with how the Dodgers didn't really hit too well in this series. Anyways, This was an inning where there was some bad pitch calling. So Emmett Sheehan started off that 7th inning with JT Realmuto at the plate. And he actually got ahead 0-2 with 2 sliders, and then threw a 3rd slider and just threw it right down the middle, and Realmuto singled into center field. Then, of course, he gets the ground out / error. They get the force out, but then Sheehan just straight up missed the ball. Mookie Betts actually made a good throw. Sheehan was covering first, and he just straight up whiffed on it. Ball went into the dugout. Then he gets Castellanos at the plate. Again, a guy who chases a lot, throws a couple of really good sliders, gets 2 strikes on Castellanos. He actually, on the 2nd strike, threw a perfect slider right on the outside corner, got a whiff. I literally said out loud to myself, throw that pitch again, and we're good. He then proceeds to try to go upstairs with the fastball, throws, and then he ends up throwing it, middle in. Castellano turns on it, and then that's how the Phillies got ahead. So that really sucked. That was some really bad just pitch calling and just really bad execution between Smith and Sheehan. But then again, credit to Sheehan because, as a young guy, you could have let the inning spiral. He gets Stott to fly out and then Trey Turner to strike out, limited the damage. And then we'll just talk about Roki really quick. Unbelievable stuff by Roki Sasaki. I can't say enough about him. And how I feel very confident that the Dodgers are going to go back-to-back. I mean, we're getting way ahead of ourselves. We still got 2 rounds to go. We don't even know who the Dodgers are going to play in the NLCS yet. That'll be determined Saturday night, which is tomorrow at the time of this recording. But unbelievable stuff by Sasaki, and it just makes me... He is a huge reason why I feel like they're going to go back-to-back and win another World Series, or at least get back to another World Series. 3 innings pitched, so he came into that 8th inning where obviously at the time it was a 1-1 game. He came in to face the heart of the order. Schwarber was leading off, followed by Harper and then Bohm. 3 innings pitched. Once again, didn't allow any walks, didn't allow any hits, pounding the strike zone with swing and miss stuff, with electric 100-mile-an-hour fastballs, 99-mile-an-hour fastballs, and then some of the best splitters that we've seen from him so far this year. I think he threw a lot of really nasty ones to JT Realmuto, to Nick Castellanos, and a couple to Trey Turner. He was getting swings and misses on the fastball. Just unbelievable stuff. He's been adapting to this new bullpen role, coming in 1 inning. He got the super quick 1st inning. No doubt he was coming back out for the 2nd. Continued to look really good, and considering that the game was still tied at that point, had to go back out for a 3rd inning. Had to, and he delivered. And just, if there was an MVP for the NLDS, it probably would be Roki. There'd be a couple other guys in contention. You could even say Glasnow because he pitched in 2 games. Blake Snell was really dominant. Could have maybe been Teoscar Hernandez if he would have had a couple more hits, because obviously he had the monster home run in Game 1. But when you look up and down the series, there wasn't a lot of great offensive players from the Dodgers. It was probably like Mookie or Kike in the series. It was Roki. I mean, Roki got the save in Game 1, the save in Game 2. Obviously in Game 2 he only came in and threw two pitches, but he still got the save. And then in this game, he goes 3 innings pitched. They don't win this game without him because he absolutely shut down the Phillies lineup. Kept the Dodgers in it, gave them a chance to score. Just unbelievable stuff. And again, I really can't believe where we're at with Roki, where, 3 weeks ago, it was a pipe dream for him to be coming out of the bullpen. And again, it would have been one thing if Roki came out of the bullpen because the Dodgers were kind of desperate. And he just has pitched pretty good. Improved from since he was a reliever, but wasn't crazy dominant. It's literally gone full force the other direction, where he's getting strikeouts, he's getting whiffs, he is not walking hitters, he's getting weak contact, he is just pounding the strike zone. The stuff is better. He literally went from a really poor starting pitcher and just increased every statistic, everything about his game completely. Like I said, the strikeouts, the walks, the command, the velocity, everything. Just unbelievable. I put some numbers on my X because I wanted to show how good he's been since he's come out of the bullpen. And like I said, it's just been, completely remarkable. But Roki Sasaki so far as a reliever, this goes through the final couple games in the regular season and then obviously throughout the postseason. 7 1/3 innings pitched, only 2 hits allowed, no earned runs, no walks, 9 strikeouts, 19 whiffs. He's thrown 85 pitches, 65 strikes. Unbelievable stuff. A 37.2 whiff percentage, which, just for some perspective, that would be top 10 in baseball among all pitchers. So I believe Mason Miller of the Padres has the highest whiff percentage in all of baseball. Sasaki would be like 7th or 8th with 37.2% whiff rate. So that's just the percentage of swings and misses that you get. Obviously, it's a super small sample size, but it just shows that he went from getting no whiffs when he was a starter to getting an incredible amount of whiffs. And then on the splitter that he throws, that is he has a 52.3% whiff rate on that pitch. That would also be one of the 10 highest pitches in baseball in terms of whiff percentage. Actually, it's funny, the highest whiff percentage on an individual pitch in the entire sport is a splitter, Fernando Cruz of the Yankees. And again, he was averaging around basically 96 as a starter. It really fluctuated. There were times that he was averaging closer to 97, 98. And then towards the end, when he was starting to get close to going on the IL, it was a lot lower. So as a whole, from the entire month and a half that he started on the mound in April and May, it ended up being 96 was his average fastball. He's been averaging 99.6 as a reliever, so just under 100 miles an hour. Incredible. It's just incredible. They wouldn't be here without him, and it's just amazing that he is the closer. And in this game, it was a high leverage spot. He's completely saving the bullpen. And again, he threw 36 pitches in those 3 innings. None of them were stressful. Obviously, it was stressful as a whole because it was the 8th, 9th, and 10th inning. But they're gonna have a few days to rest before Game 1 of the NLCS. He'll be ready to go for those first 2 games, no doubt. So just unbelievable stuff by Roki. He would be the MVP of this series if they gave MVPs in the division series. Most of this game I was watching in my room where I'm at right now. Then I was actually watching the last inning in my living room with my grandpa. When Paez hit that ball and it was a comebacker, of course, immediately you're hoping for chaos. You're hoping for a mistake as a Dodgers fan. But ultimately you're like, all right, he's going to pick that ball up and throw it to first. He picks it up, throws it home. Even if it was a good throw, Kim would have been safe. And he obviously airmails the throw. I immediately jumped up and threw my hands in the air and was just yelling, "Oh my God!" One of the probably the most shocking ending of a game I've ever seen or been a part of. In the moment, I was wondering, did he panic? Did he not know how many outs there were? What happened? It looked like for the most part that he just panicked, and I think that he said in his post-game interview that when the ball hit off of him, he thought it would be quicker to go home, which essentially he just panicked. The ball was hit right back at him. He's the bases are loaded, so you can't walk the winning run in. You got to make a pitch, obviously, just to get the guy out. The ball's hit back to him, and it's almost like this, oh shit, I have to, make this play. And he probably can't hear anyone in the dugout yelling 1-1-1. Ramuto, of course, you could see was pointing. Unbelievable. I mean, obviously I'm happy as a Dodger fan, but it was almost like a dirty feeling. I feel bad for the guy. That's if most pitchers were being honest, that's their nightmare situation. A PFP moment, a simple moment. Like a Bill Buckner moment. Now, it's not the same as Bill Buckner, and it's not, I don't think it's that big. The Phillies were still down in the series. They still were going to have to come back and beat the Dodgers. They were going to have to score in the top of the inning and then hold the Dodgers from tying the game or winning the game. They would have to then go back to Philly and win the series anyways. So, it's different. It's not like that was Game 5 and he threw the away, but still, Philly fans, that's not going to make you feel any better because obviously if he just picks the ball up and throws the thing to freaking first base and then they win that game, then you obviously just messed up a chance to win the series. Unbelievable. I wish that the walk-off would have been like a hit instead of that, but obviously you're going to take it either way. There's really no other way to sum it up. I just feel bad for the guy Kerkering because you lose like that, and obviously, he felt like, I'm sure it was all his fault. But shout out to a lot of the Philly players who obviously you should be a good teammate regardless, win or lose. But in that moment, you are probably, I would imagine, crushed. And there probably were a lot of guys who could have, rightfully been pissed, not really wanted to say anything to him. Again, I think that's like a bad teammate if you would do something like that. Their manager said after the game, you lose as a team, you win as a team, which is true. People mess up all the time. You don't go up there and, berate them. So I didn't think that any of them would do that, and that would be wrong. But credit to a lot of the Phillies, like Realmuto and Harper and the manager, Rob Thompson, like all put their arm around him right away because that sucks. He's a young kid. He's only 24 years old, I think. And obviously stuff like that could just crush you. I'm sure on social media, I guarantee there's a bunch of morons who have DM'd him and who are just, trying to crush him, and people who are probably saying horrible things and all that. And, at the end of the day, it's just sports and you should not do any of that. And I hope that he ends up being fine, mentally, emotionally, and I hope that he's all right and, learns a lot from it and is even better going forward because he actually is a good reliever. If you've watched him pitch, he is actually pretty nasty. It just sucks to go out. It just sucks to go out like that. I couldn't imagine if I was a Phillies fan or if that was my team and that happened. That would be a speechless moment. And I've seen a lot of Philly fans online, and that is a lot of their reactions is like, don't even know what to say. But of course, if you're a Phillies fans, that is not exactly why you lost the game. They had a bunch of opportunities to score, as did the Dodgers. So the Dodgers, I talked to you guys. I said earlier in the pod how I was going to talk about a little bit about Game 3 and a lot of Dodger fans who were really pissed about that game. So, of course, I just want to say, obviously, postseason games, when you lose, that sucks. Postseason losses always suck. There's so many times in the past I remember the Dodgers losing a postseason game and then having like a day off the next day, and it sucks. Like when your team loses in the playoffs, you just want them to play immediately the next day. You just want them to make it up the next day, all that. So it actually worked out good that the Dodgers lost, late night game on Wednesday, and then right away had an earlier start time on Thursday. It was like there was no time to think about it. Just get right back out there and win. Way too many people were dooming online, which is, if you don't know what that means, that's like, the season's over and all that stuff. They were critical of a few mistakes. Obviously, Kershaw in the Game 3 came in out of relief and got absolutely rocked, which hurts to see because we've seen that too many times. There was a lot of people upset about that. There was a lot of people upset about some other pinch hit possibilities. Like I said, the pitch calling with Yamamoto, the Dodgers leaving runners in scoring position, all that. And a lot of that is okay. The only thing I would say is Clayton Kershaw came in to pitch in relief. The Dodgers were down 2 runs, I believe. He came back out for the 8th inning, pitched the 7th inning, got out of the inning, even though it was a little shaky. The Phillies hit some balls hard. They kind of got lucky to get out of that inning. Kershaw goes back out in the 8th inning. And this is what a lot of people were upset about because they felt like it was the Dodgers punting. Kind of like what they would do a lot last postseason with Brent Honeywell to save the pitching, because obviously their starting pitching was wrecked last year. So there were games that they couldn't unload the pen fully, so they had to use Brent Honeywell to kind of eat innings. And essentially, they would punt games, not punt the game early in the game when they had a lead, but later in the game, even if it was somewhat close, if they were losing, they kind of wouldn't bring in any of the, quote unquote, good relievers to try to keep the game close, and the game would get away. A lot of people thought this was that scenario, and it was to a certain extent. I don't think Dave Roberts was punting, but what I will say is it's too much of a overreaction by a lot of people. I don't think that Dave Roberts should have sent Kershaw back out there so he could just get embarrassed and get his ass kicked. But it was a 2-run game. You were losing. Duran was coming in at some point to close out the game. The Dodgers obviously have a 2-game series lead, which, again, it's the postseason, so of course the Dodgers didn't go up 2-0, and then they thought, all right, we could just mail it in. We're good to go now. But you have to understand you have a 2-game series lead. The following game, Thursday, if you lose, would be the first back-to-back game you've played. You don't have that good of a bullpen to begin with, and you're just not going to pitch high-leverage guys when you're losing. I don't care. Unless it's a tie game, or if you're in the Phillies scenario where it's a 1-run, 2-run game and you're losing, but you're losing in the series, you have no choice. People don't like to admit or hear that kind of stuff, but you're just not, Roki Sasaki wasn't coming in the 8th inning there. Vesio wasn't coming in. Even Trinan, who's been bad. Now, again, I don't necessarily think they should have let Kershaw go out there to just get embarrassed because he's a Hall of Famer and he should be, beneath that kind of stuff. But, that's what I said on X was if Tanner Scott came in, which of course now we know that he is injured and will be off of this series. He was replaced by Wrobleski and he won't be eligible for the NLCS. Whatever. Tanner Scott was bad during the regular season. He hasn't pitched up until this point. I don't think that changes whether they can win or not win it or anything like that. But some people were saying, why not go to Scott there? Whatever. If Scott would have came in there and blew up the game anyways, you would be just as pissed because someone didn't pitch well. All right? They're not going to go to the high leverage relievers. Okay? And what another thing is that people need to understand in the postseason is that this is the postseason. You are playing a good team every time you step onto the field, and you're getting their best every time. Okay? You are not going to win every game. You are not going to dominate every game. There are going to be games where you get shut down like last night, and you need to figure out a way to get one run across to win a game. There are going to be times where you are getting shut down by the opposing team. There are going to be times where the opposing team is putting up good at-bats against your team, and the lineup needs to come back and score runs. That happens in the postseason. This is the postseason. You don't go out there and score 10 runs a game and no-hit the other team and win every game. Okay? So, yes, the Dodgers were up 2-0 and had been playing really, really well. But, yes, they lost a game. Okay? It happens. Okay? They didn't hit well. They didn't hit with runners in scoring position. That happens. The Phillies pitchers made good pitches, played good defense, and at the end of the day, the Phillies bats finally showed up later in the game. So, I just, when the Dodgers lose a postseason game, I hate seeing online, and I get it. It's a reactive world that we live in, but you're going to lose postseason games. I promise you guys. The Dodgers are going to play the Brewers or the Cubs. I think they're going to end up playing the Brewers, but it's going to be the Brewers or the Cubs next week for the NLCS. I promise you they will lose a couple games. Okay, it will probably go 5, 6, 7 games, and I think the Dodgers are going to win, but you're not going to sweep the series, okay? Now, I'm not saying that you just give up. I'm not saying that because they were up 2-0 and nobody really was, nobody really would have really guessed that. It was a little surprising that they were up 2-0 against the Phillies, who are really good. I'm not saying that you just okay, we're up 2-0, so who cares what happens today? But if I would have told you that the Dodgers were, before the series, if I would have told you that the Dodgers were going to be up 2-1 on the Phillies, Game 4, with a chance to win the series at home with Tyler Glasnow on the mound, you would have been ecstatic. Okay, I mean, people got to relax sometimes. Yes, they were down 3-1. Yes, Kershaw went back out there. Yes, Kershaw got rocked. I didn't want to see Kershaw get rocked. I don't think that he necessarily should have been out there. But, okay, if Tanner Scott came in and did the same thing, I mean, they were losing. Duran was looming. Duran was going to come in, okay? It happens. So people got to chill sometimes with the postseason stuff. Now, when it comes to the offense did not look too great in the series, especially the final 2 games. Now, I think they'll be better in the next series, and I do think this offense is really good because they crushed the Reds, and they did just enough in those 2 games in Philly. Again, there are ways you could kind of like squeeze the numbers or like nitpick certain things. That, yes, the Dodgers won the first 2 games, but a lot of their scoring came in just a couple innings. Again, guys, it's the postseason. Like, you're going to have innings where you do nothing against the team's opposing pitcher. It's all about, can you get enough across against the team starting pitching? Can you, create enough rallies and eventually come through to get a lead? And then can you hold on to the lead? That's it. Okay? And when you eventually fall down in a postseason game, can you come back like they did in Game 1, like they did in Game 4? Okay? So, the offense did not destroy the Phillies in this series, but it did just enough to win the series. I think they'll be better in the next series. Some guys do need to be better, and I'll talk about that going forward. The 2 guys I have at the top of my list, Shohei Ohtani and Andy Paz. Shohei, I believe, only had 1 hit in the series, and then Paz also only had 1 hit, and it's his only hit of the postseason. Shohei had very bad at-bats throughout the entire NLDS, striking out a ton. There were times with runners on base. A lot of the time it was to start off an inning, whether it was to start off the actual game itself or to start off a big inning later in the game. A tough series for him because he had to face a ton of nasty lefties. He had to get Christopher Sanchez multiple times, Jesus Luzardo multiple times, also had to face Matt Strahm. He had to face a lot of really good lefties, so it was a tough series for him. He also had to face Ranger Suarez as well. Now, if they play the Cubs in a few days, they also have some lefties in the rotation. Not as good as the Phillies, but guys like Matthew Boyd, guys like Shota Imanaga. They also have some guys in the pen, so Shohei's got to be able to hit left-handed pitching. But I just think overall his at-bats just have to get better. And then Andy Paz has to be better because he turned into like a black hole at the bottom of the lineup. And he went from a guy who, throughout the regular season at times, would hit 5th, 6th, or 7th. And in this game, he was hitting 9th. So those are the guys that have to get better. Again, as a whole, the lineup was not great throughout this series. Like, they only hit 2 home runs in the series, which was Teoscar in Game 1, and then Tommy Edman actually hit a home run in the Game 3 that they lost. That was it. So they didn't really slug enough, which you need to slug in the postseason because you're always facing good pitching. You're always facing starting pitching that's good, and you're also always facing someone's high leverage arms. So they need to slug more. But overall, it was a really good series, and it's been a great postseason so far for the Dodgers. They absolutely crushed the Reds offensively, and the starting pitching was amazing. The bullpen was sketchy, but they crushed the Reds in those 2 games. And then, here we are, less than 1 week since the Dodgers started the series. It's funny how quickly series can go sometimes, even though they feel long, because each individual game just mentally feels so long. But, one day, a week ago was Friday. Obviously, the Game 1 was on Saturday. Really nervous for the Phillies series. Wasn't sure what to expect. The Phillies have been a very good team since 2022, but have kind of been knocking on the door of getting that World Series with Bryce Harper and Schwarber, Realmuto, all those guys. But haven't been able to get through, and a couple of the contracts on that team are running out. So it kind of felt like the Phillies, like this was one of their last best shots. And obviously we know Citizens Bank Park is a scary place to go into, and I was concerned, like, what were we going to get from the Dodgers? Because you're going up right away, you beat the Reds, and then right away you're going in to face, another really good team like yourself. And the fact that the series didn't even go 5 games, the Dodgers won it in 4, won both games in Philly, won this walk-off game in Game 4. Great series, and feel great about the Dodgers. The starting pitching has just been amazing. They pitched 22 innings in this series. 12 hits allowed, 11 walks. The 11 walks is high, but only 6 earned runs, 28 strikeouts. Obviously, Shohei was really good in Game 1. Blake Snell just carved up the Phillies in Game 2. Yamamoto didn't have it in Game 3. Obviously, I didn't really talk about him, but the Phillies came out aggressive against him, and it led to a lot of hits and some traffic, and they just put some really good at-bats against Yamamoto. It was really the first time we've seen Yamamoto pitch bad in like 3 months, because he was incredible down the stretch. He was obviously amazing all season and had a Cy Young caliber season, but especially down the stretch, he was even better in August and September. I don't remember the last time he got hit around like that. So, it happens. It'll happen. I think he'll bounce back and be great his next start. And then Glasnow, shout out to him. He was really good too. So just unbelievable stuff. Here we are again. The Dodgers win the NLDS, go to the NLCS for the second straight year. I was trying to think of the math. How many times have they gone to the NLDS in the last 13 years? I'm not going to do it right now live, but they've gone many, many times. At the time of this recording, the Cubs-Brewers series is not finalized. Actually, shockingly, the Brewers took a 2-0 lead on the Cubs and looked like the Cubs were done, and that the Cubs stormed back and won the next 2 games and actually forced a Game 5. So the nightmare scenario that we were possibly facing if the Dodgers didn't win this Game 4 is what the Brewers are now facing. Blowing a 2-0 lead to the Cubs. I still think the Brewers are going to win. I've thought all year that the Brewers are a really, really good team. I was curious to see would it carry over to the postseason, because they're kind of a team that's built on contact and defense and like good bullpen and stuff like that. But a lot of times teams that don't hit home runs and teams that just are kind of built on contact don't do too well in the postseason. Like teams that don't hit the ball as hard as the other top teams in the league. I was curious to see would that translate, and after the first 2 games, they beat the Cubs, and I was like, all right, yeah, it is translating, and if the Dodgers want to get back to a World Series, they're going to have to face the Brewers again. The Cubs have come back, and now it's a winner-take-all Game 5, so obviously it's a 50-50 shot who we're going to play. I still think it's the Brewers, because I still think this is their year to get to the NLCS. I don't think they're going to beat the Dodgers. I still think the Dodgers will beat the Brewers, but we'll see who they play. I've always been preparing for the Brewers. I'm still preparing for the Brewers. It would actually be cool if the Cubs do win. I believe the Dodgers would actually get the home field advantage, because the Dodgers were the 3 seed and then the Cubs were the 4 seed. So if the Dodgers face the Cubs, Game 1, which would be on Monday, will actually be in LA. So that's massive. If the Brewers win, then it'll be in Milwaukee, of course, because they have the best record in baseball. So I should have time to preview that series probably on Sunday. Once by that time we'll know who we're facing. It'll obviously, I would imagine, Shohei is going to go Game 1, and then we'll see Blake Snell again in Game 2. So the Dodgers, what I would like to see going forward, again, I'll talk about this in a preview series, but the bats have to be better. Again, I don't want to act like there was nothing wrong in this series, kind of like a blind eye to anything, because, like I said, with people overreacting, because the Dodgers did play really well, but the lineup was not, as good as you would have liked, especially with runners in scoring position the last 2 games. Game 3, they blew a lot of opportunities, especially in that first inning. Mookie Betts hit a triple, and then Teoscar struck out, and then they weren't able to bring in that run. And then in this game, man, this was just honestly like a miserable kind of game as a fan. As a fan like myself, who is really nervous throughout the game, it's just the postseason, man, is just crazy as a fan. There really is nothing like it when you're an extreme fan who hangs on every pitch. There is nothing like the highs of winning, but the extreme nerves of possibly losing. Obviously, when they had a 2-game series lead going into Game 3, I felt pretty calm, because I felt like, all right, if they lose this game, we're still in good shape. But it's just funny, you're always in fear of a possible backfire scenario, because you're like, all right, they have a 2-game series lead, 2-0 series lead, but if they lose this game, then that means game 4 is like you got to win that game, because if they lose that game, then it's like winner take all game 5. So it's like there's always like this in the back of your mind. Obviously, they didn't win game 3, so this game was like fully nerves, like we got to win this game because then we got to go back to Citizens Bank. And the Dodgers took the crowd out of that series, out of those games a lot. But you know that if the Phillies won these 2 games, then we would have went back to Citizens Bank. You know they would have been rocking because they probably didn't expect that. And, yeah, that would have been super nerve-wracking. But we don't have to deal with any of that because the Dodgers found a way to pull out this game. And, yeah, just super nerve-wracking, especially later in the game when the Dodgers tied the game in the 7th but weren't able to go ahead. I really, if I'm being honest, I was feeling like this looks like we're headed towards like a 2-1 loss. Like the Phillies would have found a way to score a run. I really thought it was going to happen in that Alex Vesey inning. I really thought Bader was going to find a way to bloop a single in. Dodgers were going to go down 2-1, and then Duran was going to come back in the 9th and just plow us down and pause. And then yeah, they wouldn't have been able to score, and then that would have been it. That's what it felt like because they were showing nothing on offense. It was just 1-2-3 innings, just nothing, strikeouts, weak pop-ups, groundouts. But credit to the Dodgers. Tommy Edman actually played pretty well offensively in the series. He got that inning started, and then obviously Muncy, a massive moment. I put out some numbers also on Max about that Muncy single off of Luzardo. Muncy hits well below 200 against lefties. Lefties versus Luzardo hit like 201. And then the sweeper that Luzardo possesses, opponents hit like 178 against that sweeper. So all the odds were against Muncy to not get a hit there because he doesn't hit lefties. Lefties don't hit Luzardo. Nobody hits his sweeper. First pitch sweeper, he hits a single up the middle. So that was another incredible at bat. And then obviously the Kike walk. And then obviously the Kerkering just crazy error. So wild game, wild series. Dodgers come out on top. They take care of the Phillies, which is massive. The Phillies are a really good team, but the Dodgers played better. And here we are, man. The Dodgers, we know it was probably the most stressful regular season for the Dodgers in a long time, definitely since 2018. They were in the wild card round. They were not the dominant team that we thought they all would be, but they've turned it on in the postseason, and right now they're back in the NLCS, waiting to see who they're going to play, and they are 4 wins away from getting back to the World Series, and they're 8 wins away from winning the World Series again. I think the lineup's going to be better. Starting rotation, I think, is going to carry this team to a back-to-back World Series title. And the bullpen has been doing its best. Roki has been carrying a lot of the freight, but Vesey has been pretty solid. Sheehan has looked, pretty good for the most part. I know that he has given up some runs, but I do actually like the way he's pitched out of the pen, especially since that series against the Reds. He's come back and looked a lot better. And I think they're going to continue to do some of the same stuff in the next series with Glass now coming out of the pen, and a couple other guys. So thank you guys for listening. It was an unbelievable series and a wild game 4. But the Dodgers are moving on to the NLCS. I will see you guys in a couple days to preview whoever they play. I think it's going to be the Brewers, but maybe it'll be the Cubs. Who knows? I'll be back to preview that series. Go Dodgers. I'm wearing my 2020 World Series jersey. This is a Clayton Kershaw jersey. Can't really see it on the back, but thank you guys so much for listening. As always, you can get this podcast on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow us on all social media at Talking Blue Pod. You can follow myself at Talking Blue Nick on X, and follow us on Reddit at competitive-week8715. I know it's a weird name, but there's Talking Blue stuff all over there. You can't miss it. Thank you guys so much for listening. We will be back to preview the National League Championship Series. Go Dodgers. They beat the Phillies in 4 games.